Hello, bioethicists. I just wanted to make a video to describe the final project that I'm having you do for the class. It focuses, I think you'll see very clearly, on the principle of justice. Of the four different bioethical principles, the first one being autonomy, the second one being beneficence, third being non-maleficence, and the fourth being justice. This emphasizes that final one in the context of Northeast Ohio, and especially public health or healthcare in Northeast Ohio. And what this project is going to ask you to do is to do some research on kind of on your own uh, into some of these matters that have to do with ethical questions or challenges in Northeast Ohio. So I provided the description. You'll see it in the assignment Dropbox, and you'll see the different kinds of elements that I would like for the project to contain. And I just wanted to go over those a little bit so you have a little bit more of a kind of a narrative description of the expectations. What I would like for you to do is, so you see the different stages in a sense. Now, you don't necessarily have to follow these in order if you would rather not, but it's just kind of like a guideline or possibly a roadmap for um, how you can carry out this project. You'll notice there are really two different sorts of activities, very generally put, being writing and research. And there are really two different kinds of research that I want to make sure that you do, and several different stages where you might write something up or describe something. So the first three items, selecting a topic, identifying your question, and gathering information, those can all happen in really any order without compromising the integrity of your project. You may choose to start by gathering information, just kind of look at some of the data somewhere, or look at some kind of account of a pattern over time, or a map of different kinds of availability of services, or economic distributions. However, whatever interests you in terms of some of the questions that might have to do with distributive justice in healthcare in Northeast Ohio. Um, and a question may arise as you are examining this information, or you might realize, okay, well, my topic appears to be this. You'll notice I suggested um, six possible general topics. This is not exhaustive. You may end up choosing something outside of this of these possibilities. But those are one of them is access to specific health services in Northeast Ohio. Another one of them is unequal treatment of patients, right, from different demographic groups. You might also choose to do something that has to do with unequal distribution of resources, um, comparing different regions and or different demographic populations with how healthcare is is made available, and or different elements of healthcare. Rates of disease and vulnerability. You'll find, I think, in your research that there are different areas and different populations with different kinds of different occurrences, the levels of occurrence of disease or persistence of disease. And you may also do research on chronic or long-term needs, having to do with perhaps people with disability or some kind of ongoing challenge with their health, and what are some of the concerns there morally in Northeast Ohio. And also, finally, you may also do something that has to do with corporatization of hospitals, the conflict between the profit motive, the desire to remain financially sustainable, versus the desire or the motive to treat patients and to care for them in the best way possible. So there's just some possible topics that may emerge. You might have a question specifically that relates to that you are going to target, that you're going to zoom in on with your research. Please let me know if you have any difficulty kind of generating those or looking through the facts. Oh yeah, and just to point out at this point in the video, I provided lots of links to resources that are available on the web, and there's really no shortage of possibilities for where you can start to gather facts and gather information. So you can just browse through that. I categorize them, and it's again, if that seems overwhelming, maybe just pick one place to start and see whether that leads you to some kind of interesting question or something that you might want to pursue. In terms of the number of resources that you need to use, I haven't really set a minimum or a maximum in terms of number of resources. I care the most about, and I repeated this in the layout of the assignment. What I'm interested the very most is to see that you, well, first of all, that you've done some research and that you are thinking about this morally, ethically, that you're the cogs are turning in your mind, and then I can see that on paper as you write. That's the most important thing to me. So, okay, let me just to go through some of the other kind of steps, the other tasks I want to have you do. One of them is after you've kind of gathered your information, spend a little bit of time writing up a description of the information. Um, One of the very helpful areas, this is one of the maybe very um, prominent aspects of research like this, is where possible, provide some kind of visualization, right? If it's some sort of mapping, if it's some sort of unequal distribution, if it's something uneven, that can be laid out geographically or that can be laid out in a bar chart or something like that, we'd love to see that because that's very helpful for us to kind of get our heads around what's happening or what you're examining or the facts that you're looking at and analyzing. So describe the facts, provide visualizations where possible. That's kind of, I've listed that as stage 4. Um, oh, I'm sorry, that was the final one of the first 3. Okay, so stage 4. After you've gathered the facts, try to analyze the facts. What conclusions can you draw from the facts? What can you infer, right? So what do they imply? If there is some kind of demographic disparity, then or if you that might be something that you might notice emerges from the data, right? So um, now it's possible that your conclusion or what may be a suggestion. Now you might not necessarily say this proves something, but you might say something like, "Well, this data suggests this," right? Or that it leads one to suspect that something might be the case, right? So it's okay if your conclusion is not necessarily airtight at this point, or at any point. You might instead just be saying, "Let's we can look at this information and then we can surmise certain kinds of things, at least tentatively." That's stage 4. And stage 5, take a step back and think about what sorts of moral challenges apply to this issue, right? What does this suggest about problems with justice, or even problems with beneficence or non-maleficence or autonomy in healthcare in Northeast Ohio? So it can use some of those ethical tools that we've been studying this whole semester and apply them to the information that you've gathered, right? So you're going to and the way you've analyzed it. So do some kind of ethical assessment, right? It's kind of step 5 in a sense of the project. Um, for step 6, try to look for other sources, like other people who have looked at similar information or looked at the same data or looked at the same region that you're studying, and see what they say about that, right? So at this point, now this is important that you do this kind of after you've kind of drawn your own conclusions. See whether other people have drawn similar or different conclusions from the facts and compare those to your view, right? To what you concluded. And I think the results will be fairly interesting. You may find that they lead you to change your mind a little bit, or they may lead you to they may affirm your conclusion. Either way, go ahead and write that up and kind of describe that on paper when you draw in other sources or other analyses of the facts, right? Okay, and then the next thing I would like for you to do is suggest at least one kind of solution to this challenge, right? And it doesn't have to be a full-on plan, but just something that you think should change as a result of this information, as a result of your analysis. What should be improved, and where should resources be redistributed or refocused, and so forth, right? So suggest a solution. And then finally, kind of wrap things up and at the very end, just kind of have some kind of concluding paragraph or some sort of concluding remarks that allow us to kind of bring your project to a close, right? To wrap it up. In general, and you don't necessarily have to follow, this is just a suggestion. Every time I suggest that there is a section of writing, that probably should be ideally about a paragraph long, right? A healthy paragraph that kind of expresses the idea and unfolds or reveals a number of details that are associated with that particular aspect of your research, that particular element or section. All right, by and large. Now, considering the time in the semester, considering the challenges everybody's having in terms of trying to kind of rearrange things or reorganize things because we're now fully online towards the end of the semester because of COVID. Oh, that reminds me. Um, I have provided a few sources that are directly related to COVID-19, some of which are have to do with COVID-19 in Northeast Ohio, and you may be very interested in that. That may be a topic that you choose, right? What is it like under pandemic, or what are some of the moral questions that have to do with this pandemic in Northeast Ohio? Okay, yeah. So about a paragraph. Considering that we're so late in the game, I'm going to be fairly lenient in terms of length and depth, just because of yeah all of these different considerations and all these different factors that are kind of looming overhead. Um, so I hope that helps helps you kind of grasp what I'm looking to have you do with this project. I've set the due date for really the end of the semester, when the final exam begins. So you have about 3 weeks or so to complete the assignment. And but if you're having trouble making any progress there, please don't hesitate to let me know, email me, and so forth. Also, the other thing, just as another update, I want to start inaugurating on Thursday afternoons during the time that we would ordinarily have class. In other words, 1 o'clock to 2:15. I'm going to start to set up Zoom meetings so that we can actually maybe do face to face. A lot of people have been doing this. I've done it for one other course and have had some reasonable success with it. And I want to make sure that we're able to do that with this course as well. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say in this video. I'm sorry that it ended up being so long, but I hope that it helps add a little bit of explanation to the project. All right, and I miss seeing all of your faces, and I miss interacting with you. I miss the terrific conversations that we've been having in class. I always learn a lot from chatting with students. I get a sense of different kinds of perspectives on these details um, that are very important ethically, right? So one could even argue that the kinds of things that we're studying in this class and the tasks, the calling that many of you have is one of the most important, especially now. So I also want to take a moment to say thank you so much for all that you're doing. I know some of you are already in the field, and some of you are already involved in the heat of battle here as we face this pandemic. So thank you from me to you. All right, I look forward to your work. I look forward to any questions. I also look forward to possibly having a conversation on Zoom on Thursday, and I'll go ahead and send you out a Zoom invite for that once I've got that set up. All right, thanks. Take care. Be safe, be healthy, and Godspeed.